What's up, my financially intentional people? So, you are in for a treat because we are joined by my good friend, Jackie Cummings Koski, and she is no stranger to the podcast. In fact, she is on the podcast when is Branded Nurses on Fire, but she is doing some incredible things still in the fire space. Recently got her CFP accreditation license and is just out here killing it. But what we're really going to focus on is her new book that's coming out, Fire for Dummies, which is going to be incredible and is part of that Crazy for Dummies brand that you all know and love. Anyway, what's up, Jackie?
Nasima, I am happy to be here with you, girl. And yeah, I remember our last conversation, and we've been friends ever since then. And we talk about a lot of stuff. I feel like our lives have almost been parallel. You're about 10 or 20 years behind me in terms of age, but we have the same spirit. So I'm just happy to sit down with you and have this conversation, and we'll talk about a lot of stuff. So thank you for having me.
Of course. And I do want to acknowledge the fact that Jackie has been rocking with me forever. She is one of my biggest cheerleaders. I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for Jackie. She's always recommending me for great things, and we're always bouncing ideas off of each other. So get you some friends like Jackie. And one of the biggest things that I tell people when they talk about what's the first step in really getting my finances together is really about the people that you surround yourself with. And so I can truly say I'm blessed to be surrounded by you, Jackie, because you are an inspiration.
Yes.
And you guys will find out why as we talk more. But Jackie has done some amazing things personally for her daughter and in the personal finance space. But writing this book is just a small step in, or a small accomplishment in the many things that she has done. But Jackie, why don't you give people your background? How did you get started in this money space? Because you're a corporate girly.
I'd say that all the time. I'm a corporate girl. I live on LinkedIn. My favorite social media is LinkedIn because I'm a corporate girl. That's where the corporate girls live.
Yes.
But to have a friend, you got to be a friend. So you've been that girl for me too. Let me just say that. So yeah, I've been in this money space for a minute. I grew up in poverty, so that definitely was not written into my destiny when I was young. I was raised by a single dad with 6 kids in Aiken, South Carolina. I do hail from South Carolina. The Lady Gamecock just took it home. Okay, so I'm very proud of my South Carolina Gamecocks. I just have to say that. But so I just remember growing up in poverty, I did not want to be poor when I got older. Now, my dad, he worked his butt off. I don't even know how he did it, but he is today my greatest hero and always will be. And most of the things that I learned from him, I learned in the early years because he actually passed away about 3 months before I graduated from high school. So everything that I carry with me, it is things that stuck with me when I was young. So I ended up going to college right after, thinking that that was a way to get a better job, make more money, have good benefits and stuff like that. That's what I was told. So I ended up getting married right after college, had my daughter. We ended up moving to Ohio. And as soon as I got to Ohio, found out I was pregnant. So
That's how it works.
had my daughter. Yeah. So that changed a lot. And I was married for about 12 years and we ended up getting a divorce. So all of a sudden, when I thought was a shared journey, ended up being a solo project with me and my daughter. And I had to shift and things changed a lot. And that was pretty much my wake up call at the time of my divorce, because I discovered that we had a huge disparity in our retirement accounts. Now, we were making similar incomes with a similar match and all that. And I had $20,000 in my retirement account, in my 401k. And my husband, he had $120,000. So that was $100,000 disparity. And I talk about that all the time just because it just still baffles me that I didn't know that. But once I discovered that, that was like, ooh, I got to do something different. It felt horrible, not just the divorce and all the stress and anxiety and things that go with a divorce. So it took a couple years, honestly, to get my head right, to feel like I had the energy and the motivation and the desire to want to do something different. And so that probably was the start of my journey and my huge wake up call. And I know for a lot of people, it takes something like that to shake them up. So that's what kind of started it. I joined an investment club, which turned out to be great. It's supported by a nonprofit organization called Better Investing, which I'm still very much involved in. I actually sit on the board of directors for them. And then I started backtracking, figuring out some other pieces of my financial life that I probably should have tried to figure out first. Things like learning how to save, what is a savings rate, how to do my net worth. I started maxing out my 401k, maxing out my Roth, maxing out my HSA when I discovered I could invest in that. And that got it all started. And as soon as I learned what FIRE was, and I'm a skeptic by nature, so I'm digging into it. I'm hearing like Mr. Money Mustache and Mad Scientist. I'm like, what? And I had to do my own digging to get my questions answered for me and my situation, because I was very different than the tech guys that were too high income earners in places where, they earned a lot of money, no kids and things like that. But I adjusted and it was okay. And the FIRE community, honestly, was the first time I had heard this financial stuff broken down so simply. So 25 times your expenses is what you need to retire. Okay, that's easy. I can do math.
Yeah.
The 4% rule. Okay, once I get that big nest egg, multiply it by 4%, and that's what I take off annually. Okay, that makes sense. And I just filled in the gaps in between. So that's what attracted me to the FIRE community to begin with, because things were made to be very, very simple.
Is digestible. And then I have the privilege of knowing your story, so I don't want to do it a disservice, but I want to ask some questions to bring people up to speed. Number one, during your marriage, you said you thought you were on a shared journey. So how was it that you were only investing that little into your 401k while your husband was investing so much more? It sounds like you thought you was on the same page, but there was a miscommunication somehow.
To be honest, it wasn't that there was miscommunication. There was no communication about our retirement, we never looked at each other's statement. I never looked at my own statement. I wouldn't have known how to make sense of it. And it wasn't even that he was investing much more than me, but I since did some sleuthing and figured out what were the differences. It was multiple things. Okay. One of them was, this was around in the early 2000s where the bank stocks were doing really good. So he worked for a very large bank, and the bank stock was one of the holdings inside of his 401k that was outperforming any of the funds. Then he was invested a little more aggressively than I was. And then on top of that, even though we started out around the same amount, we know that wage gap, right? The gender wage gap. So he's starting to make more than me. Which means that his percentage, let's say if we were both doing 10%, his 10% was more than my 10% if his salary was bigger. So over time, it just compounded and the gap just grew. So it wasn't any one thing. It was a combination of things. And then he was finally in a role where he got stock options as well. Not a whole lot, but that was another extra thing. So all those things combined, that's what made the difference. It wasn't any one thing, but yeah, it was basically no communication, didn't really discuss it, didn't sit down and look at it, didn't know I was supposed to.
So in your divorce settlement, what happened with those retirement accounts?
So with the retirement account, we were married 12 years and we had a daughter. So essentially what the judge did was put all the retirement money in one pot and then split it down the middle. So if it was, I think from the time that we started the divorce to the time we ended, it was nearly 2 years. So I just know that the split, I ended up with $60,000.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's just to catch people up to speed. But
that's
that's good. But one thing that you failed to mention is that in this journey, when you were figuring out all of this stuff, you did something phenomenal and began to be known as the HSA queen.
Oh, yeah.
Because you became an HSA millionaire in that process.
A little crazy.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, Nazim, a lot of the stuff that I learned out of necessity because I wasn't getting the answers that I needed. No one seemed to really know. So I went digging on my own. So I would say that curiosity is a very powerful thing. So with an HSA, when my company started offering them, now I had become more comfortable with the stock market through this investment club. And so I wasn't afraid of the stock market anymore. And one of the things that attracted me to HSAs is that you could invest in that account. Now, on top of
Mhm.
that, looking at the high deductible health plan, because that's the part that scares some people, and it scared me too, to be honest. But
Mhm.
both me and my daughter, we were very low consumers of healthcare. We would go for our
Mhm.
annual visits, and that's about it. Even the low deductible, the $500 deductible, we weren't even meeting that. So I'm like, I don't want to have to pay all this money in premiums. I'm barely using it. So I'm
Right.
like, I'm getting this high deductible plan. When HSAs were first offered, companies, including mine, was contributing a lot to it. I think my company put
Mm.
in initially almost half of what the maximum allowable was. That was nice as well, that they were trying to incentivize people for being on a high deductible health plan. And you didn't even have to contribute anything to your HSA. So it wasn't even a match. The company
Mhm.
would just contribute it. And so as they were doing that, I think when I first started, it might have been like around maybe 4,000 for the family maximum, and the family's just you and one other person. So I was maxing
Mhm.
out every year, and the maximum was going up. So it's 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. So it kept going up, and I maxed it out every year. And as
Mhm.
soon as I maxed it out, I think the provider required you to keep $2,000 in cash. So I
Yeah.
set it up
Uh-huh.
to, as soon as it met $2,000, it
It
got
was
put
all
into,
over. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was a total stock market index fund, probably
Mhm.
Vanguard. And I just consistently did that. So I had it on autopilot,
Mhm.
and the health plan was still working for us. And I ended up, by the time I left the company and I ended up rolling over to Fidelity. I ended up, my HSA had grown to around like 160 or $170,000, which is
Mhm.
crazy. And I
Mhm.
had been contributing for about 12 years at that point.
Mhm.
And I still have that HSA, but I'm no longer on that type of plan because I'm on the Affordable Care Act, and
Mhm.
my plan is pretty cheap on a traditional plan. But
Mhm.
so I'm not even contributing anything more. It's just growing. And now is like up to about $200,000. So I learned
Wow.
all the ins and outs because HR couldn't help me. The benefits people couldn't help me. Nobody had answers for me. So I had to go digging
Mhm.
myself. So I was that early adapter. I got the answers that I needed, digging on my own. And it turns out it's a pretty good account. I didn't quite know what I was doing early on, but as time was going on, I felt more and more comfortable with it and realized like all the tax advantages, the fact that you can
Triple.
invest and all these
Yes.
things. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So have you found that now that you're retired, you've had to tap into your HSA at all, or is it just sitting there and growing?
I decided I had a few receipts over the years. Like I said, we were low consumers of healthcare. So
Mhm.
I didn't have a whole lot of receipts. I'm like, you know what? I don't need to be even thinking about these anymore. So I think I ended up taking out, it was 2023 because I
Mhm.
literally just set my taxes 10 o'clock last night. Today is April 16th.
Girl.
I've been so busy. I just didn't. So I did last year. I pretty much cashed out every receipt I had, and it was like around $3,000. So over the
Mhm.
course of 12 years, I had $3,000 worth of receipts. But other than that, no, I'm not proactively tapping into it for anything that I need now because honestly, the plan that I'm on, I pay $5 for prescriptions. I pay maybe $10 when I go see my doctor. So I still, luckily, don't have a whole lot of medical expenses. I guess I came to a decision of how I'm going to offload my HSA. Now, we're
Mhm.
still really young, but we know we will get older. And at 65, you take Medicare. So what I will end
Right.
up doing, if I still haven't touched it, I'll continue to let it growing. I will simply pay for my Medicare premiums. You can do that with
Mm.
my HSA, and year
Mm.
after year after year, that will cover my Medicare premiums. And that's how I plan on drawing down that HSA.
Wow, I love that plan. And I don't think a lot of people have thought that far.
Look, I teach other CFPs and financial professionals about HSA. So that's
Right.
when I had to dig into some of these pieces that don't really apply to me now. But the whole
Mhm.
Medicare part, a lot of financial planning clients are older people. So I had
Mhm.
to dig into that a lot
Mhm.
more, and it made me think
Mhm.
more about it.
Yes, and then another thing that you alluded to but didn't really touch on is the fact that through all of this, through you being able to grow your net worth to the point where you can retire, which we haven't really gotten into, that you did not really make more than $100,000. Like a lot of people
Mm.
can are say I'm not relatable because
Girl,
as a
you in
nurse,
California. Yeah.
that part right there, that I make this much money. But like Jackie has been able to reach fire without making six figures her whole career.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm sure everybody listening probably know what FIRE stands for: financial independence, retire early. I
Mm-hmm.
took the retire early stuff very seriously because some people be like, I don't really retire early. I'm like, I do. I got things. I needed to step away from my job. I needed the ability to be free and to do some other things that I wanted to do, or at least to separate. So I needed the separation. My job had nothing to do with personal finance or the stuff that I do now. So yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces. Okay. So you have the big income and all of that, but then you live in a high cost of living area.
Mm-hmm.
So you really got to look at someone's full picture.
Yep.
Now, the average household income, because I do research around this stuff too, the average household income in America, the last time I checked, was like $60,000.
Yeah.
Now, that is the average over all of the US. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
California, we know 60,000 is not going to be that much. But if you live in Ohio or maybe even Georgia or Iowa, 60,000 will go a long way. For me, I live in Ohio, and I used to call it a lower cost of living area. It's really more like a mid, because our property taxes is up there,
Mm-hmm.
because I have still family and friends in South Carolina, and their taxes are about half of what mine are. And that's something you pay again and again. But my annual salary, I went back and I looked at my Social Security statement, and I took the last 10 years and then I averaged that out. And it was $80,000. Now, in any single year, I did not make more than $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, how it is being a single mom. So I was a single mom a big part of this time. So
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't trying to climb the corporate ladder. I was in sales. I could have done field sales as opposed to going to the office every day and probably almost double my salary. I wasn't wanting to do that. I wanted safety and security for my daughter. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be able to pay the bills, to save, and to be able to spend time with my daughter. She was very active in sports. She was a cheerleader. She was gymnastics. She was all this stuff. So that was more important to me than making $150,000 or $200,000.
Mm-hmm.
But what I decided to do is just to be more efficient with the money that I did have. So I was okay. Like, I never was complaining, oh, I really want to make over six figures, or I really want to climb the corporate ladder. That was just not important to me.
I just wanted to highlight that because the people are always going to be like,
Yeah.
I can't do this. I only make this amount of money. And if I'm not making six figures, wealth isn't attainable for me. But as you can see,
Yeah.
Jackie is a prime example. But at what age did you retire, Jackie? We gotta be
Yeah,
telling
it was
people.
49, but I got to, thank you. I got to my FIRE number. The FIRE number is just 25 times your expected expenses in retirement. I was right around 40,000. Okay.
Mhm.
So 40,000 times 25 is $1 million. So that was my number. I hit that number when I was like 46, 47, but I was still a little scared. My daughter, she was grown and she was out. So that was one of the things on my checklist. I just had never been an entrepreneur. I had just been so comfortable with relying on a steady paycheck that was direct deposited in my account every other week. And to give up that security, it was like giving away the golden ticket.
Yes.
And so I had to get my head around it. And I was so interested in financial literacy, financial education. I was already doing workshops, doing talks and training. And I just loved it. Like, it lit me up. And I never dreamed that I would be able to do that on my own terms and not have to rely on the job. Like, the job always paid the bills. But 2 years later, but it took a couple of years for me to get comfortable with that and say, okay, my numbers work out. Even if I don't make a penny, I'm able to pull off my $40,000 or so. And then my investments will still continue to grow. So I'm like having this conversation with myself. And finally, 2 years later, I was ready to pull the trigger. Gave my boss plenty of note. I gave him a soft note. A soft notice just means that I wasn't ready to put it in writing because anything can happen, but I just wanted to give him a heads up. But if things change, I still could have backed out or whatever. And then I would say probably about 60 days ahead, I went ahead and I put it in writing. And that happened to be December 2019, right before COVID.
Right before COVID hit.
Right before
Yes.
COVID. I was trying to look for some way to get laid off, because I would have gone to him and I would have said, hey, you don't have to lay off at least one person. I'd be happy to be the one you lay off, because then I would get severance, I would get unemployment and all that. Yeah, negotiate things a little bit. And there was adding people. So I was not, nothing was working for me. And then 3 months later, the pandemic hit and half the people got laid off. You can't time this
Wow,
stuff.
the
You cannot time this
timing.
stuff.
You can't
Yeah.
time it, and nobody saw that coming. Nobody, because I
No.
remember we were even at the economy conference like the
Oh, yeah.
week before the world shut down, and that's when you
Yeah.
presented and gave your numbers and talked about you retiring and all of that stuff. And then
Yeah.
literally the next week is when
Yeah.
everything was like, you can't go
Yeah,
nowhere.
we were literally running out the damn building because we
Yes.
were like, oh, I don't think we're supposed to touch each other. We were doing fist bumps and not hugging. It was whispers at that time. And some people
Mhm.
thought that it was going to get canceled. Well, everything else after that got canceled. But economy
Everything,
pretty
like
much was the
literally.
last public thing most of us did that was
Yes.
there.
So, but before
Mhm.
we dive into this book, I really want people to understand the concept of retiring early and what that actually means. So, you said, and we know you do some things now, but you are retired. You retired at 49, and you are able to, from your investments, live off of the money that you pull down every year using the 4% safe withdrawal rate. But you can conceptualize that, but in practice, how does that work for you?
Okay, that's a really good question because I think the 4% rule or guide or rule of thumb is a great reference point because we need
Yeah.
something to anchor to. I gave myself all kind of buffers. Remember when I said I hit my FI number at 46, 47, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I worked a couple more years. So I had a cushion there.
Uh-huh.
And then I didn't even include Social Security. I was way too pessimistic. Now I know that it will be there in some form. Now that's
Mm-hmm.
my cushion for my later years because that
Mm-hmm.
money, that's the safest money you could get is adjusted for inflation, guaranteed every single month for the rest of your life. And the government can print money.
Let me just real quick throw in a plug from the Catching Up to Fi podcast,
Oh,
which you are now a co-host of,
yeah.
had an amazing episode on Social Security
Oh, yeah.
and like all of the questions that you would have around Social Security. That was the most informative and the most easily digestive conversation that I've heard around Social Security. So just plug that in the show notes.
So that's a good point because Nasima, I was getting so much conflicting information
Mm-hmm.
that I just threw it out. And here was the thing, and I didn't discover at the time, I was so naive
Mm-hmm.
that most of the comments, there were political undertones.
Yep.
And so it depended on a lot of time how you felt politically or people were making a political statement. And I'm like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not trying to do that. I'm trying to get some
Like
real numbers, which again, I'm
yes.
back to let me dig and do my own research. And
Mm-hmm.
I look at a worst case scenario with Social Security. The actuaries, the people that know what they're doing, the big brains, okay, they say if nothing's changed by 2034, you probably will only be able to get about 75% of your stated benefit. Okay, fine. That's what I did, or that's the number I'm looking at. And I would do this too. Okay, let's assume I take it as early as possible, which is the lowest amount at age 62. So I
Mm-hmm.
use that. So even that was about $1,500 a month for the rest of my life, adjusted for inflation. And the government can print their own money. So yeah, it'll be there in the later years.
$40,000 is how much a month?
God, girl, you asking me
It's
to do
like three.
math?
I know, right?
3,000 is 36,000. So about
Yeah.
a little over $3,000 a month. So that
Yeah.
means
Okay.
it will cover about half, even in the
Yes.
worst case
Okay.
scenario. Now I'll
Right.
probably wait till a little bit longer to take it. I was married for at least 10 years. So there's a provision there that
You
might be
get
able
some of
to
that.
use
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah. So yeah, I was too pessimistic about Social Security. There's plenty of unbiased, objective information from the actuaries if you really want to understand it and listen to the Catching Up to Fi episode about Social Security, where this is an expert that's talking about all that. Now, again, it's not going to help me in our younger years, but
Yeah.
we're going
So
to get
for
old
right
one
now.
day. We're going to be
Mm-hmm.
in our 60s. We're going to be in our 70s, 80s. And I have a great aunt that lived until she was 111.
But what it does help with is for you to get over the thing of you running out of money, though.
Correct. That is exactly
Yeah.
what it did. And after being retired for almost 5 years, my biggest takeaway thus far is precision is not required.
Mm.
I built in some safety nets and some cushions, but everything that I plan, 2 years after retirement, I'm going to be doing this, 5 years after retirement, all that's completely different. I wouldn't be able to say, I want to write this book. That just came about. So there'll always be curveballs. There's always changes. Build in whatever cushions you can. Social Security can be that one. So if you don't want to include it in your numbers, that's fine. But knowing that it probably will be there, that could be your nice little buffer to help you feel a little bit better. And on top of that, since I retired, I haven't been pulling off 4% each year. If I've got other income, that keeps me from having to pull off from my investments. But the first 2 years, I was pulling off about the 4% because I was in school and I was spending money. So yeah, even though I pulled off some of my money already, my net worth and my investable assets has grown.
Yeah, still grow. That compounded interest is crazy.
Yeah. So that makes me feel a lot better. And of course, when COVID hit, I'm like, I retired at the wrong time. What if I lose all my money? And it was only down, the market was down for like maybe 3, 4, by the summer, it bounced back. And I think we
in a major way too.
Like in a major way. I think we ended that year, 2020, up like 19%. The S&P 500 did. And then 2022 was a pretty bad year for the market. And I was tracking my investments then, and I was down like 21%. So that didn't feel good either. But 2023 was awesome. 2024 is off to a great. So it's always going to go up and down. But in the long run, the stock market is up way more years than it's down.
Yep. On average, 70% more.
On average.
But so when you retired, you had your retirement account at your company. You took that money. Did you put it into your own? You went ahead and just had them transfer it over to your own IRA. And then do you do withdrawals monthly? You just plan out what you think you need a month, or do you do it for the year? How does that look?
Early on, a lot of it was like in my brokerage account, so I didn't have to worry about the retirement piece of that. But what I did set up the year that I retired, or a couple years before, I had 3 months worth of living expenses in cash, not invested in the stock market. Because I didn't want anything to come between me and my early retirement. Okay. Even though the stock market was up 30% in 2019 when I retired, that little piece was my safety, and it was my money to live off of without having any worry or concern about what the stock market was doing. So that was a big deal. Now, I did learn, even taking money out of my brokerage account or whatever, I typically will do that quarterly. I didn't do it annually. I didn't like the idea of doing it annually because anything could happen. 2020 is a good example. 2020, I got both stimulus checks because it was based on 2019 and 2018. And also they had a special provision. Again, timing just works out sometimes. They had it where you could take money directly out of your IRA and not pay a penalty just for that year. So I took it out that way because I'm like, I'm so young that I can't take it out normally without a penalty. So I went ahead and did that because I knew that was going to be a one-time opportunity. But yeah, quarterly seemed to work out better for me because I don't like seeing my balance getting down too low, because before you know it, I still have a mortgage, but before you know it, the mortgage is coming out and a bunch of bills are hitting at the same time. So I'm more comfortable doing it quarterly. I think annual, it's hard to map out 12 months to me. So that's too long. And then a month to me is just not enough. So I've been doing it about quarterly. And then I have to look at, do I have anything that's coming in? And you know how when you do in projects, you don't know when it's going to come in. So I have to be careful about not depending on that. I don't count on it until it's in my hand or in my bank account. So.
Got you. Okay. Thanks for explaining that, because there's not a lot of people who are actually early retired that will sit down and tell you, okay, this is how I pull my money. Because a lot of people who are early retired that I know still have active incomes. They're not drawing down from their retirement. Most people retire into something. So they're technically not retired, but retire from their main thing. So it's just
gotten there yet, but I need some checks to start rolling in, but I'm going off my investments.
But you're not sitting still. And that's the other thing I want to speak about. You are out here, you are studying, getting your CFP, which is a designation that not a lot of Black women in this country have. So let me give you your flowers.
So the CFP, that's considered the gold standard for financial planning. Most people are familiar with that. And you do go through a rigorous process. There's a crazy hard exam. You have to have these education classes that you have to take. You have to have 6,000 hours of experience. I was not even going down that road. I was at Kansas State to get my master's in financial therapy, but then there was these other 6 classes that turned out fulfilled the requirement for the CFP exam. So I'm like, I'm not going to get my CFP. I'm an educator. That's where my heart is. That's what I want to do. And I want to touch the masses. I want to touch many people, not this one-on-one where you can barely handle 200 clients. As I'm going through it, I am learning about the CFP, the statistics, and I'm talking to more and more people that are doing it, sitting for it. So I was a part of that world. And when I saw the statistic that said there's right at 100,000 people with their CFPs, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And only 2%, I'll repeat that, 2% are Black.
That's not even a Black
2%.
woman.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Black women, it's probably even less because the industry is primarily male.
Mm-hmm.
For women, it's only about 21%. So how many women are in this world? I would say about half. So it's not even women. Women are not even represented, right?
Right.
So I'm thinking about this and I'm like, even though I don't want to practice in the traditional sense like that, why shouldn't everybody have access to the mind of a CFP?
Okay.
Why shouldn't everyone have that? There's plenty of things that I can do one to many, the same way you educate your clients one-on-one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that got me thinking, and I applied for this scholarship and I ended up getting it.
Mm-hmm.
And that scholarship said that you had to sit for the exam within a year.
Oh.
I'm like, so that gave me my timeline.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I got to do this. So that's what headed me down that road. And I didn't even know if I would pass the first time. I just know the program I took, oh my God, it was just very dated to me. We got these big, thick books that were, not all the programs are like that. I wouldn't have taken this program again, but it was definitely not a good fit. But I didn't have time for that. I had to study for this exam. So I just started getting all kinds of other resources. I'm an auditory and visual learner. So I started looking at all these friends we got in the personal finance space. Many are CFPs. I started putting together a podcast list. It's like if you wasn't talking about CFP material that was going to be at the exam, you got deleted.
Yeah.
And so it was podcast, YouTube, and there was some amazing content where the way that they explained things was so much better than I was getting in my program. So I wouldn't have skipped taking a program, but I needed this supplement like desperately. And that was the game changer for me. And I started feeling, okay, now I'm getting it. Because I feel like when I wasn't understanding certain things, I'm like, is it because I haven't practiced? Was it because I'm not looking to do this one-on-one stuff? Is it because I haven't really worked with wealthy people a lot? And those weren't the reasons. It was just that the way that it was being explained was just so dry and dull, and it just wasn't exciting to me. But we have lots of friends that makes this financial stuff sound very exciting, even plenty of CFPs that are in our space. So I ended up, honestly, when I walked in to take my exam, I didn't know if I would pass or not. I was trying to track it. I was trying to be as organized and as thorough as possible. But you can't study 10 hours a day. So I don't care if I was retired. My brain can only take so much. And when you get done with the exam, you're notified right there on the screen. And it's in tiny little, like a 6-point font on the screen. And I guess they do that because maybe if you fail, you don't want everybody to see, but it's really tiny. It's really tiny. And when I got that, I swear I almost fainted, Nasima. I swear there was so much stress. It was one of the most stressful times in my life. Just all the anxiety, all the buildup. It was awful. But part of that was I took one for the team. Now I'm a Black woman that does have my CFP, and I spread it as much as I can. I wave in as many people as I can. I'm very, very visible. Jackie Cummings, CFP. And it's not because I'm bragging about working with a bunch of wealthy people. It's just that I feel like everybody should have access to CFP level stuff. And that's not the only way you get really smart on a topic, but that's one of the types of social proof, right?
Yeah.
Until they get to know you. And so I want to see more Black women. I want to see more women. I want to see more diversity. And it's not to take anything away from some of my amazing white male friends. Some of them have helped me along, and they've been awesome as well. They probably have been part of my success. So to me, we all win. There's no limit to who can have the CFP or how many people.
Exactly. Congratulations.
Thanks, girl. Thanks,
I'm
girl.
proud of you.
Look, if you ever want to go down that road, I got your back.
As much as I love to follow in your footsteps, that probably is not one of the ways I would do it. I love the personal finance space, but the CFP to me is a lot. It's like me getting my doctorate in nursing. It's probably not going to happen.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And let me just say this. So even though you're not interested, one of the connections that I did make, and I definitely want to mention it on your podcast, is that there are a lot of very smart, amazing influencers in our space. or content creators or thought leaders. Now, not all of them want to go down the CFP route. Okay. And then there's also something called the AFC, Accredited Financial Counselor. But these credentials often can make a difference in the content that you create and the clients that you attract. Okay. So if there's anyone, any influencer, because I feel like it's not a big jump for most influencers, because the number one issue that people have that's getting their CFP is getting the experience hours. And of course, I did a lot of digging. It used to be where the only thing that counted for experience hours was one-on-one financial planning. Now you can be a blogger, a podcaster, a journalist, a writer, all of that. Well, you know what I did for my experience hours? I went back and all that education I was doing, all of that content creation, all of that stuff, that pretty much got me to my 6,000 hours. But 10 years ago, before that change was made, I would not have been able to do it. That's a lot of freaking hours. That's 3 years full time.
I was actually thinking that a CFP limits the amount you're able to share on social media and all that kind of stuff. Like, that was the impression that I got. If you have a CFP, you're bound to certain standards. So you can't share as freely, because then it can be taken as financial advice. So for me, as a content creator that likes to put it all out there, I felt like it would have been limiting. But from what you're saying, it seems
not really. I think a lot of people thought that, because if you think about all the CFPs that are out there now creating content, there's a lot of them. And it just has to be, usually there's a disclaimer, and it's for education and information purposes only. Because I'm an educator at heart, you're an educator at heart. I'm not giving individual advice because I don't know your particular situation, but I know how to educate. Okay. So like some financial planners, they'll back off real quick when you ask about taxes. They'll be like, oh, I can't talk about taxes. I don't do taxes. That's an exaggeration. Okay. If somebody asking about their tax bracket, that's not giving advice. Tell them how tax brackets work. When somebody's asking about AGI, they just tell them what AGI, you can be an educator, like a 401k. I'm not advising you what to choose, but I can show you how to read your statement. I can show you how to look at the different time frames. I can show you how to find out what funds you're invested in. So everything I do is always around education. I use a disclaimer, but I don't have an issue like that. And typically it's going to go back to their compliance officer. So it's typically when you work for a firm, especially bigger firm, then they have all kinds of compliance. They go overboard. I had a friend that had told me that at their firm, they're not even allowed to say the word cryptocurrency.
That is so funny.
I'm like, what?
I'm like, why? Alternative currency.
Like, and they think it could be misconstrued as advice. I'm like, or endorsing it or whatever. And I'm like, you can say that about anything. So it doesn't even make any sense. So some people just go overboard with that. And a lot of times it's because of compliance. And that's what the firm standards are. So I don't have an issue. Because honestly, in my heart of hearts, I can't give anyone specific advice. Like, I live in Ohio. I'm a single mom. Unless you're also like exactly like me, I can't give you anything specific, but I can give you some parameters. I can educate you. I can give you some scenarios and some examples. There's nothing wrong with that.
Now you can give people this book that you just read.
Exactly. And that was part of the one of the check marks that I got to check off, because I'm talking to a lot of people over the years, a lot of groups, some individuals, and you start to get the same questions again and again. And to me, for every person that's asking that question, that is a valid question and they deserve an answer. So I'm glad that I do have something that I can say. I wrote about it in there, and Wiley gave me free range to structure this book that I wanted to. They had, of course, their For Dummies template, but I really didn't have any restrictions. They saw me as the expert that needed to lay this out. I did the outline and I did all of that. So if I were to lay it out for someone, it's laid out in this book where almost anyone could follow. Even a high schooler could follow a lot of what's in the book. But if we never got the foundation, we didn't have it in school, we didn't get taught about it at home, it wasn't in our environment, we weren't exposed to it, then you don't know. And so I don't like really skipping, because when I skip, that makes it more difficult for me to learn. Even like a lot of the CFP stuff, I'm going to Next Gen Personal Finance sometimes, which is for high schoolers, to learn, get the basic platform, and then I can layer on top. But if you skip the platform, it could make it so difficult to really grasp it if you didn't get that foundation early on and had a good fundamental understanding of it.
So let's walk through this book and how it's formatted and how it can take somebody from zero knowledge about fire, about personal finance, to a place where they're comfortable with understanding the concepts and at a point where they can start applying it for themselves.
Yeah. So I start out as basic as you can get. What does FIRE stand for?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I always try to say it again. That's just my educator at heart, but financial independence, retire early. And yes, it was written for people that would like to go through the steps of FIRE and fill in whatever gaps they have.
Mm-hmm.
But also, since I'm in the financial planning space as well, sometimes financial planners will get it wrong. But just like a lot of people, if they're looking at just what the media puts out, they get it wrong. So I wanted to put very clear, balanced information about what FIRE is, and use this as your guide to get a better understanding of it, rather than just reading from one article. The job of the media is to get as many readers or viewers as they possibly can. So what gets people there? A salacious headline, the most extreme case. And that's fine. They're doing their job. But that doesn't necessarily represent the whole. So there's a lot of different type of people that this book would be good for. If you just want a better understanding of FIRE, you want to help it on your journey to FIRE, or you just want to learn about it to how to get started. So I try to make the distinction between the basis of what FIRE stands for, to the FIRE movement and the FIRE community. Big differences, okay? With the movement, it's all about buying back your time, being free from or decoupling yourself from a job. You can be passionate and do what you love. It doesn't mean that you have to do that through the vessel of an employer, okay? And just being able to be in a position where you can manage your own time, where you can set your own mornings and really do what you're passionate about. I never got the opportunity when I was younger. I wasn't told, oh, do what you love, honey. No, you need to pay your bills. That was the main thing. And to get away from that, you just need to work to pay your bills. That's a powerful thing. Exactly. And so when you move to that point, you're more creative. Like a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now, honestly, I could have done it while I was working, but my mind was not free enough. I wasn't creative. By the time I got home from work, after working 9 or 10 hours, my brain was tired. There was no more creativity you could squeeze out. But now I get up in the morning, I got all these creative and great ideas. I can't keep up with some of the ideas that pop in my head. And then I get to work with more people. Like I get to work with you. And a lot of people are like, okay, I wouldn't have any friends if I left work. I'm like, oh boy, yeah, you need to get a bigger network. And that's what we were accustomed. At a certain point in time, most of your friends were at work. Okay. And they were the people you work with. Of course, there are going to be some amazing people that you stick with forever, even after you leave. But then there's some that you're only in their space and they're only in your space by default. So I guess default friends, if you will. Now I get to customize that. People that inspire me, people that I adore, people that make me feel good, people that I love to make feel good. Like I'm happy most days now because I'm in the space of people that I respect and I admire. They cheer me on, I cheer them on. And that is so valuable to my mind, my spirit, my days, and all of that. So I just think about all the amazing people that I have met since I retired. If I didn't retire, I would have never had the opportunity to meet them. They would have not come into my life. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that.
I love it. Oh, so inspirational. So I like that you get to put that like in the book, because I feel like there's this narrative around FIRE that it's just for those dual income, single, white male, like people in the engineering or tech fields. And a lot of people, that's what they associate with FIRE. And I got a little teary eyed when I was reading the book and realized like legit, like Jackie, I was looking through there and then it was like the 10 people you need to know in the personal finance space. And then I was like, yes, all those people. And then I saw my name on the list.
Yes,
and then
girl.
I was like, no, oh my God, I can't take it. But I think it's about exposing people to what's possible and that it looks different for everyone. And of course, I'm truly like humbled to even be included because I feel like I'm among some really, really great people.
Too many to name but your name was definitely up. And you can count the number of followers, and your Instagram is crazy, and the number of downloads and all that from whatever platform you got from a technical perspective. But I think what you represent is a different aspect of fire and a different journey that we don't see enough. Yeah. And that's why that's so meaningful to me.
Again, I'm like so honored to be included. I'm glad I didn't get cut by the editors. Like, she's not fire enough. You always have that imposter syndrome. Anyway, but I want to know what's uniquely different. I mean, everybody recognizes like this For Dummies brand. And number one, it's incredible that you get to count your name among the other authors that have been able to take advantage of this space. But what does it mean to write a book, like a For Dummies book? And how do you think it's a different way to talk about personal finances than perhaps you've done traditionally?
Yeah, that's a really good question. You're asking some good questions. Look at you. You're not like the interviewer extraordinaire. I need to be taking notes over here.
So funny.
But that is interesting, though. I did write a book 10 years ago. Now, part of my program in undergrad was journalism. So I love writing. That is one of my hobbies. People ask, what do you like to do? I really do enjoy writing. So when I wrote the book, Money Letters to My Daughter, it was a labor of love. I was just wanting to teach my daughter all the things that I learned. And I put it in the format of these short little letters that was like very pithy and to the point. And turns out it did pretty good. A lot of other people were interested in it, but it was a self-published book. Took me 2.5 years to write it. I was working at the time, but I finally called it finished. And I was very proud. That will forever be my greatest work because it was written to my daughter. And it was early on before self-publishing was even a big thing. That would have been 2013. And so that was a very different approach than working with a big traditional publisher. Wiley is like one of the top 5 publishers or something like that. And the Dummies brand is just so recognizable. The main difference, and I appreciated the latitude that they gave me. They saw me as the expert. They asked me to put together what I thought the book should be, the outline and all of that. And I think the thing I appreciated the most was they got all these professionals. They got 10 different editors. So the acquisitions editor, that was the first person I dealt with, and she's the main person on it. Then you've got the copy editor. You've got the development editor that helps make sure the flow is in place. And then they let me pick my own technical editor, the subject matter person. And I chose fire friend Cody Garrett. So Cody Garrett, he's a genius. So of course I was going to pick him. And I was hoping that he said yes, and he did. And so he was looking at all the technical stuff. And I'm sure he was looking at some of it saying, this girl passed the CFP exam?
It's so funny.
So yeah, so that was crazy. But so then even after that, then there's yet more editors and more people. Like then you've got a promotions person. You've got just all these different roles. And I'm thinking, boy, I get to work with these people and this is their whole job. And so, girl, I was taking notes the whole time because when I'm ready to write my next book, I'm going to remember all the things that I learned from working with these professionals. So that was one of the main differences, but they really weren't edited for my content per se. Like I was the expert. They couldn't tell me, oh, don't they need to do this first? No, that was my job. And I just remember, so they're looking for grammar. They're looking for do things make sense? Does the reader follow it as a non-fire person? So I remember one time or one section of the book, okay, I put in VTSAX and we in the fire community know what that is.
We all know what that is.
One of the editor's notes was, can you spell out this acronym?
Oh, now, poor baby.
And their job, if you think about it, if somebody's reading that book and they go to that chapter, they may not know what that is. And so I did put it in parentheses. This is a total stock. This is the ticker for the total stock market, Vanguard Index Fund. Yeah. So yeah, I was working with a bunch of pros where this was their job. They knew what they were doing. They kept me on task. I had the deadlines too, because they're a business. And so that was probably the thing that was the toughest for me because I learned that I don't like writing on demand. I love to write. It's an outlet for me, but boy, writing on demand is just my brain doesn't work like that. And I think mentally, I was thinking about the deadline, and that sometimes gave me some writer's block. You said you experienced that a little bit too. Yeah, those were the main differences. Obviously, since they have such a big name, they are immediately probably going to be in most bookstores, Barnes and Nobles, in libraries. It's easy. When my self-published book, it was so hard to do some of that stuff. And then they'll automatically be in Canada, the UK, and probably a bunch of other countries. So.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't even think about the international exposure, but
yeah, the international exposure. They said that up front. So there's some a little bit of international stuff in there for our Canadian friends and our UK friends. But I learned, just like the first book, I did learn a lot about myself. Initially, when they gave me the page count, which was over 300 pages, I'm like, there's no way. There's no 300 pages here. And so I started fudging the numbers a little bit. And then when I was doing it chapter by chapter, every chapter was over the number of pages that I fudged, right? And I like the idea of having graphics and visuals. So those are in there too to help support people's learning. Yeah, it was an interesting process. I'm just happy to have it behind me and happy that it's out there, because it's exhausting. It really is very exhausting because you have to go full speed. For me, it was like 6 or 7 months, full speed. And I just needed to just step away. I didn't have the luxury to step away for 3 months if I felt like it. Yeah. With my other book, I did.
Yes. So you came back fresh, but yeah, it's done. It's done. So when is it coming out?
So this will probably air after the book is out, right? It comes out on April 30th.
Okay. I can move it. It's my podcast.
Okay. That's my girl. I got it like that.
Hold on. We will make sure that it airs that week.
Yeah, I believe that the Kindle, the digital version, is available, but the printed copy, they're still saying April 30th. Now, every book I've ever pre-ordered, I've gotten it before the official release date. So maybe mine will come a few days early. I don't know. But the official launch date, will be having a big party and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But April the 30th is official launch day.
Okay. Yes, we will be partying on that day. That is 2 weeks exactly from today, actually. So yes, April 30th is 2 Tuesdays away.
Yeah, it's getting close, girl. My heart's beating fast.
Do you have to do any additional like marketing, book tours, anything?
Yeah, book tours aren't what they used to be. Like book tours used to be physically where you're traveling all over the place. You don't need to do that anymore. You know, J.L. Collins just launched his Pathfinders pretty much all online. And to be honest, you touch so many more people online. And this is post-COVID as well. So what book tours look like before COVID versus now are very different. So the book tours are pretty much, you're on a lot of podcasts. And we have a lot of friends in the space that have podcasts or different platforms. And the really close friends reached out to me as soon as they knew I had a book. Or if I reached out to them, they said a quick yes, like you did, just to talk about it and get it in the hands of your audience, because you already know who I am. And my belief is that a book is simply an extension of what you already do and what you talk about. So to be able to get it in this very organized fashion that's very available to everyone. And each chapter actually stands on its own. If it's referencing something that's new, it's going to reference the chapter and all of that. So that's pretty much the book tour. I'll be doing a few extra things, and a lot of people will come to me with different opportunities. And if they know you have a book, you might be more likely to say yes or whatever. So yeah, I'm getting it out there just to really have more people be aware that this is available, that you don't have to have all these questions that never get answered. Most of it is going to be in the book. So I may do some things around Q&As or book clubs or talking to media to just answer some questions around the behind the scenes of the book, to flesh out some things in the book, or just broadly what FIRE is, what it represents. And a book is just typically a basis for doing that. It's a credential, if you will, a little social proof that, hey, this is someone that knows a lot about FIRE, and having the credentials didn't hurt. So that was helpful too.
Yes, I love it. So April 30th. Oh my God. I'm so excited. I'm going to be celebrating like that day is marked off for you, Jackie.
Yes, sister.
And then I'm going to make sure I get my physical copy as well, because I want to be standing on the ground with it, wear my yellow so I can match.
Your Instagram is crazy, man. if I don't look at nothing each day, it's your Instagram. Okay. I'm looking and all of my nieces and stuff, they want somebody cool. They don't want their aunt. So I'm like, okay, you need to check her out. And it's so funny that several of them are in the medical field. So that kind of helps too.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so
Yeah.
cool. I'm glad I can be a little bit of an inspiration for
Yes, girl. You're
somebody.
inspiration to a lot of people. A lot of people.
Oh, I'm still trying to get my life together, so that's a little scary. But
and I think part of it is that you're so real. You're willing to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I realized this when I was writing my first book. And I had my daughter reading some of the letters, and her favorite letters were the ones where I talked about my mistakes or something I did wrong, because then that made me more real. And I don't know why I didn't realize that before, but she basically, she's, what other stuff do you have that talks about your mistakes? I'm like, I don't know. So I love to see the bumps and the bruises and the imperfections. And to me, it's even more inspiring to see someone move the needle and make progress versus if you were born on third base and, oh yeah, you made it home. Okay.
I try because I feel like a lot of people put out only their wins. And even if they have this rags to riches story, it's all about, it looks so linear. It looks like, oh, I did this thing and then all of a sudden I'm a trillionaire. And it's not that. It's you did this thing, you learned some things, you messed up, you made some mistakes, you had to start over, you got in bad relationships, that jacked you up. Like it's all of those things that people either don't put out there or they don't think is relevant. And I feel like transparency and sharing your mistakes is where most people learn. And again, it's where most people think, okay, like she's relatable, so then I can do these things. And so that's what I try to do. And plus me, I just keep it real no matter what.
And that's why I love you so much. That's why I love you. And one thing I decided to do in the book, and you were probably part of the inspiration, is that I made sure I put something I called my non-fire confessions. So just stuff that I did that I know don't really align. Like I drive a luxury car that uses premium gas. Okay. or I talk about when I took a 401k loan. I don't regret even doing that because the circumstances, and I explained it in the book, the circumstances said, you know what? That's a pretty smart way to do it. I didn't use it to pay off recurring debt. I didn't have an issue with that. But again, looking at my own situation, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to anyone else to just use it to go buy a boat or anything. But this was 2010. Like you had really good dirt cheap housing prices. And if it gave me a benefit to pay cash, that's how I did. But anyway, there were some that were just stupid mistakes that I'll never make again. But some of them, I put some thought into it. But they would still be considered non-fire. So I expose a lot of my non-fire confessions. We all have them.
I love that. I love that. But yeah, it's real. It's real. We're not perfect. Right. Some of those things work out for us. Some of those things don't. But I think people need to know that you don't have to be perfect in order to be successful. You can make the mistakes and still have forward motion. And a lot of times people just don't do things because they're scared of making mistakes. And that's not the right approach.
The mistakes, I don't even call them mistakes anymore. I call them lessons. And I don't know who said it originally, but I perked up when I heard Denzel Washington say it. But he said, if you're not making mistakes, then you're not even trying.
100%.
Denzel.
When Denzel says something, we got to listen. But anyway, Jackie girl, this has been so good. April 30th is a day for you guys to get this book. I'm going to be sharing it. I'm going to be giving away some copies, talking about it. I actually have a Tuesday episode on April 30th that's going to release on April 30th. And I'll do my own book review. And then in that, give
that's a friend
copy
right there now
of the book. Yes. If you're in the U.S., because international shipping rates ain't the business. But yeah. I'm going to be doing that. We'll make sure this episode comes out before April 30th. And I just want to thank you again for just gracing me with your presence and also the craziness. Of course, I had to hold the baby the whole time.
I love it. Look, mom over here, girl. I'm just glad my days are over. I hear you.
Got one in the background, waking up,
That makes you
talking.
even more amazing. The way we have to multitask is like, this fire stuff ain't nothing if you've been a mom.
Listen, people just don't understand the struggle sometimes. I was somebody like put on the comments one time, oh my God, like why would she have her baby? Listen, the interviewee wasn't bothered, the baby was fine. Like, why are you so bothered?
Girl, I wanted the babies to be here. So I'm like, can you bring the kiddos, have them ask me some questions?
Exactly.
And a part of our thick skin is we learn that people, what they say is more what's in their headspace than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I bring on the comments, bring them on. And if it's something negative, I'm like, so that might mean that I'm human?
Right. No, I'm not perfect at all. But then for it, like, where are you coming from? Where you think it's okay to say something like that? It's my thing. But I'm just like, you know what? Let me have some empathy for what you're going through because it's something not right. Because happy people that have their stuff figured out don't make those kind of comments because they're too busy living their best life. And so for those people who are in that space, I pray for them to have some grace and be able to overcome the things that they're going through. Because
it took me a while to learn that, Masima, because like when you're new and you think you're doing something great and somebody leaves something negative, it's like devastating. And boy, I just made it full circle where I'm like, okay, let's hear them, because I know it's more about what's in their headspace. I would get comments about, oh, you took half your money, your husband's money. Of course, you got $1 million.
That's right there. Oh my God.
It's like,
oh my God.
So that was $60,000. I'm now worth $2 million, and that was like 20 years ago. But for all I know, he could have just caught his wife sleeping with his best friends, and she took him to the clinic. That's
right, exactly.
I have no idea what's going on with him, but I know that it's not about the stranger on the internet. Right. It's about whatever you have going on.
And I'm glad because you've been on national media a lot. And when that happens, it opens up the floodgates to haters. Like they love coming for you, especially you're a Black woman in space. Why would you deserve to be here? Why would they even write about you? And so it's hard. It's hard, but you got to understand that that's their own issues. And I'm glad you were able to come full circle because it can be enough to take somebody out, especially like if they don't know, or a lot of people just cannot internalize that kind of stuff, and it's detrimental physically and mentally. And
look, Celie said in The Color Purple, we still here. We still here. We still here.
Right. Exactly. I've been through a lot worse. Okay. You calling me something on the internet is not gonna break me down.
That's all you got. Come on, that's all you got. My niece that's 8 years old, she could do better than that. Come with it.
These kids, my kids, every day the stuff they say to me, I'm just like, okay.
Exactly.
But anyway, Jackie, thank you so much for being on the podcast. You guys make sure you pick up that Fire for Dummies book coming out on April 30th. And I'm always down to rock with you, whatever you're doing. I'm always going to be a cheerleader in the background for you, or whatever you need. I'm here, and I'm just grateful that I get to call you my friend.
I love it. Yes, always. And we're just going to keep riding and keep doing our thing. We're both putting out great content. Again, not a whole lot look like us, but we're just going to keep doing it. We're going to keep doing it. So I appreciate it. This was my best conversation of the whole year, probably. I love it, girl.
Aw, thank you.